Good morning, everyone, and welcome to 5 a day. This week runs from Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. Just for 5 minutes, 5 minutes of thought, reflection, challenge, inspiration. And this week we've been looking at how we can move forward in our lives, looking at where do we go from here, what things will help us to move forward. And we began the week talking about listening to God. And then we talked about acting on what we hear and then understanding why we need to move on, and also then making that decision, that determination, which is of the will, that we're not going to go back, that there is no going back, that we need to move forward. And then yesterday we looked about how change is needed within us, in our thinking and our ethos. Everything begins with a thought. We begin what we're going to do by thinking about it and moving from there. We need to let our thinking be changed. And today, I just want to talk about the next stage. In fact, it's part of a cycle. And the next bit is to hear from God again. And then we keep moving forward. We get ourselves in a way of which, like a wheel going round and way around, that we continue to go round. And like the wheel on a bicycle, unless it's one of those exercise bikes you've got in your home, the wheel goes round and moves you forward. And so what we need to do is almost complete that circle, complete that cycle, and hear from God again. We need to constantly check with him that we're on the right path, that we're doing the right thing. Are voices around you so noisy that they're drowning out his? It's very easy to hear all sorts of voices, all sorts of things. Today, if you've been on social media, if you've checked emails, if you've done anything like that already, there will be all sorts of messages bombarding you already. You would have had to switch some of them off and get rid of some, delete some, ignore some. And they can very easily drown out God's voice. Are we on the right path? I'm thinking that, if you ever sent a rocket up into the air, you think, well, no, I haven't done that. I don't work for NASA. But actually, maybe on fireworks night, you've put a rocket in a tube and you've launched it off. If you've done that, then you realise, one, you've got to make sure it's like the tube that you stick the rocket in is stable and it's not wobbly, because if it slightly moves off at an angle, if it goes just to 1 or 2 degrees off, you can end up firing the rocket at people, and certainly not in the direction that you want. So if you are going to send a rocket to the moon or Mars, you need to continually course correct and sometimes make slight adjustments, but a slight mistake, a slight change of angle, and you could miss it by millions of miles. This is what Paul writes in Romans 10:17. So faith comes from hearing, and hearing through the word of God. So our faith grows and it develops in hearing. And as we move on in the journey of faith, we hear from God more, we understand more, we put into practice more, we grow more. And so we're taking these steps, and these steps forward, these movements forward, and we need to hear the word of God continually to help us. Jesus taught us that he was the way to God. So what we must do is make sure that we access that divine connection, that we are connected with him and we stay connected to him. Prayer, we're encouraged to pray constantly, to not cease praying. And prayer is not just us talking to God. If that's what we think it is, then we're not praying. But prayer is dialogue. It's a two-way communication. Prayer includes listening to God, hearing what he has to say, hearing his word. Faith comes from hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ. His word, what he has to say, in spite of what everything else goes on. People have good ideas or good things we're going to hear, but are they the things to direct our lives? Are they the things to set this course of our life, which if we go wrong, we can miss the mark by millions of miles. We can totally miss what we should be and who we should be. So hear from God again. James says this also, which we'll look at in a minute, in the James 1:22. Be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourself. The initials of what we've done this week spell the word launch, Launch. But if you take out action, which is the second point, then you get lunch. James says, be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourself. If we don't act on what we hear from God, then we just get fat. Yeah, we just become a fat Christian. We get spiritually fat. But when we act, we move forward. And so never forget that. Act on what you've heard. Maybe the stuff that you've heard this week. Maybe things that you've read in your Bible this week. Maybe things that have challenged you this morning or through 5 a day, and just put it into action. God bless you. Have a fantastic weekend. I look forward to catching up with you on Monday morning.